Right.
Everybody. Okay. All right. So tell us, and you can look at me because the way he's taping, you don't have to look at the camera. But
I don't intend to.
okay. Tell us who you are and when you were born and your early days in Palmyra.
I'm Katherine Burianie. I was formerly Katherine Spittler. I was born in Lebanon, but I was brought to Palmyra when I was 2 weeks old because my mother passed away. And my grandmother raised me. So I've lived in Palmyra all my life, 90 years of it.
Okay, great.
One thing that I enjoyed about Palmyra was, at that time as I was growing up, it was so casual and so informal that you knew everybody as you walked up and down the streets, but you respected your elders. And if they told you to be home at 9 o'clock or 9:30, that was your time to be home. Your church functions were your number one priority growing up. We had quite a number of church functions. And like I say, during the week, you could walk the streets at night and not be afraid. People didn't lock their doors. You knew everyone. You talked to people as you went by. In school, I went to what is now Interfaith Manor, which is
The old Railroad Street building.
Old Railroad Street building. And you want me to tell you something that I did that I shouldn't have done?
Uh-oh, yes, but these are the stories we live for.
I had a habit of, when we were on the second floor, I had a habit of getting on the stairs and sliding down the banners.
In the school?
In the school. And it just so happened we were going on Thanksgiving holiday. And I got on, slid down, fell at the bottom, broke my ankle.
Oh, no.
But I walked home. I lived only a half block from school. I walked home, and finally that night they decided they better have this ankle checked. So when the doctor checked it, it was broken. And he carried me everywhere, and I had to walk with crutches. So my father, Leroy Spittler, was on the school board, and they had an investigation. So they called me in, and I said I was walking down the steps and I fell. And all the others that were sitting there, boys and girls in my class, went in and said, "She slid down the banister like she always does." So my father came out again and he said to me, "Would you like to tell me what really happened?" Yes. I fell down, I slid down the banister and fell down the steps.
Oh, you really, when the school board got involved. So your father was on the school board?
Yes.
Yeah, what was his profession?
He was head of Bethlehem Steel office in Lebanon.
Oh, my goodness. But he lived
Although I never lived with him.
Okay, but he was on the Palmyra School Board?
Mm-hmm. He lived.
Oh, he lived in Palmyra?
He lived right next to Hassler's store.
Okay.
Which is
Main
now
Street.
Slaughter's.
Right, okay. Now, we were talking about Hassler's before. Did Hassler's become Boyer's? Or was it like 2 doors down or something? There was a Boyer's grocery store.
There was a Boyer's grocery store, but I didn't think it was after Hassler's. I thought it was before Hassler's.
I remember Boyer's, and I don't remember Hassler's.
No, you wouldn't.
No. But I have pictures of Hassler's.
And Hassler's store, they would come and take your order and deliver.
A lot of places did that. We have a video. Did I ever show you that video? We have a video that has that happening.
And also the meat man would drive up and down the street. The ice man would drive up and down the street. So.
And then did you have to go out and hail them?
Yeah.
That's what you did.
I went out and let them know that you wanted to have them stop. They'd ring their bell and you'd run out. And we used to run out and get ice chips. That was a big things that get pieces of ice.
That's special.
That, and we had a potato chip factory up in West Cherry Street. And they would throw all their broken chips into a box, and you could take your bag and go and get that. And so that was a big deal.
I remember those chips too. They were still making those in the 50s and 60s. Oh, were they good? They don't make chips like that today.
No, and you didn't worry about them making you fat.
No, but that's true. We concentrate too much on that today.
Right.
Going back to the school board, because I find this interesting that your father was on the school board. What other types of people were on the school board? I'm going to have to show you this video because I think the school board is on that picture in 1939.
Paul Hershey was on that.
And he did what? What was his profession?
Paul Hershey had a garage up there where Decker Dynamics was Paul Hershey's garage.
Okay.
Paul was on, I couldn't tell you. You know, the thing of it is, I never lived with my father, so I wasn't that close.
And you wouldn't remember as a student going through who the board members were. Okay. What were some of your other, you brought us a picture about one of the basketball teams. Were you active in sport?
The basketball team of 1915, girls 1915 basketball.
And at least one of those people is still alive.
Right, Velma Gibble, Velma. And
I don't remember what her name is today, but
I can't remember.
And who was the coach of that team?
Mr. Swank, Buck Swank.
And Mr. Swank was the coach, and then he was the principal and supervising principal in the Palomar district. So for many, many years, people who went through the Palomar schools know of Buck Swank.
Right.
And he was still there when I started
And
school.
Mr. Metzger, who was assistant principal and then principal in the original school.
Okay. Well, you said earlier that you started in the Railroad Street building, and then that was K through 12.
Right.
But then what happened when you in your senior year?
Then we went down to the new building. We thought we were just it because they started a business course. We did not have a business course before that. And in the new building, we had a business course. So that prevented a lot of our people were going up to Hershey just to take business.
Oh, okay. All right. So that would have been what, 38?
I graduated in 38.
In 38.
The class of 38 went one full year, the first
in the
year.
in the new building.
In the new high school
Which
building.
today is the middle school.
Middle school.
Right, okay. And when I was going to school, it was the high school.
Right.
We'd start in the Railroad Street building, and then we moved over to junior high and the high school in the what we call the Cherry Street building.
Right.
So you had happy school days, sounds like.
Very happy. We didn't have the fighting and the backbiting and the clubs and the groups. Everybody got along very well together.
And so what kinds of, you were in some sports, and what else did you do in school?
I was in all kinds of sports. But like I say, your Aunt Martha and myself were the first girl cheerleaders Palmyra had. Before that, they were all boys.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And our original gym in the Railroad Street building, there just wasn't any room because you only had seating on one side. On the other side, it was up against the wall.
And was that in the basement? I don't remember where the gym was.
It was in the basement. And there were big, wide seats.
Okay.
So.
So you two were the first girl cheerleaders.
And then we had Miss Holcomb, who was our home economics teacher. And home economics was down there too.
Okay. Well, after you graduated from Palmyra High School, then you went into the business world, didn't you?
Yes. I went to Thompson Business College first and graduated from that. But what started me in 42, I wanted to be a grease mechanic.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. I don't know why that doesn't surprise me.
I wanted to do my part in the war. So I went to Middletown. I worked in Middletown for 9 years, and then I went to the Turnpike Commission and worked there. And from there, I went to Laurie and Green, the architects, and worked there for 23 years. So I was in design of all, helped in the design of all the school buildings at that time here in Palmyra.
Oh, really?
Also the municipal building and.
So Laurie and Green were the architects in
Right,
Rancho
and Laurie
Palmyra.
and Green were architects for hospitals, courthouses. We were industrial. I mean, we were not residential.
Commercial, more the commercial buildings.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
We were schools. But, it was an experience because I'd go and ride the center line of the roads before they were ever laid out.
Oh, wow.
And then I graduated in there from that into writing specs. So I would tell you what is to be on the walls, what's to be on the floors.
Right, right, very important when you're building those buildings.
So
They have to be, the specs have to be right.
I had a full,
So even though you were working in Harrisburg, you were working on projects that were in Palmyra
Right.
as well.
we did Palmyra schools, we did Elko schools, because we did when your husband was there.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
So,
We'll have to talk to him about that. Now tell me about, okay, in Palmyra, you were working, so that takes a lot of your time up. Were there volunteer things that you were involved in Palmyra during your working years?
yes.
Tell us about that.
I was working with PTA, I was Palmyra president of PTA, I was Lebanon County, and I was state.
Oh my goodness.
So that kept me busy. I was in the original group that, for churches.
Oh, the
PAC.
Council of Churches.
PAC.
Palmyra Area Council.
At that time, it wasn't PAC, but I mean, we graduated into PAC. So I worked in that from the beginning until just about 3 years ago.
And what were some of the significant things that came out of that Palmyra Area Council of Churches?
We had the only after-school classes, and other surrounding towns would come and want to sit in on our classes and see what it was like, but now they've dropped them.
Unfortunately, that's interesting though. When was it? Was it in the 70s, 60s, 70s? When was that?
It would have been in the 60s and 70s.
So the Council of Churches saw a need that more
Oh.
women were out working and the children needed something to do after
Right.
school, so you started classes.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that, 'cause
And,
I would have been out.
and they also had release time school
For
during.
religious education, I
Right.
remember that, on Wednesday afternoons. And I'll come back to that, because there's another question I'm gonna ask you though. But, okay, staying with the idea of the PAC, weren't they the ones that started the interfaith then too?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So they tried to meet the needs of young families as well as
That's
older
the
people.
elders, that's right,
Right, excellent.
yeah.
Very good. Going back to my other, was there a time when Palmyra used to shut down on a Wednesday afternoon? Somebody said that to me the other day, that Palmyra businesses would all close on a Wednesday afternoon.
When I was small, yes, when I was real young, they would do that. Wednesday afternoons was a holiday.
That's interesting. Why do you think they did that?
Stores and all that.
Yeah, everything would close down and it became a holiday. Where did that come from?
I don't know. It was to give them relief from working all the time, and
Sounds very European to me, but I think it's very interesting.
It was, I mean, it seemed odd, but that was a relief from having to be there all the time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Church, so you were part of the churches, you were very active in your own church as well.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
representing your church on the Palmyra Area Council churches.
Right.
Okay. So you were very active in your church as
Yes.
well.
I spent 55 years with the children's department alone, and then 17 as lay leader, and so I've been active. In fact, I still am.
Mm.
I started an information center 9 years ago, and I'm still active in that.
And churches in general were very important to the growth of Palmyra, weren't they?
Right.
We had a lot of churches. Just
We had a lot
tiny.
of churches, and we respected our churches, and like I say, we made them our #1 priority.
Mhm.
If there was a question as to some activity going on and you wanted to go, you either went to church first, or that's where.
That was your decision to do the church
Right.
activity rather than something else. The history of your particular church, do you want to just talk about when you first started going to church, it was on Main Street, right?
It was on Main Street, Main and College.
In college. And then, when was that, the
Then-
50s?
Right. 57, we built the one at Green and Birch.
Church Street. And that was, when it started, was it an evangelical?
We were United Brethren, then we became Evangelical United Brethren, and then we became United Methodist.
Yeah.
So at one time I didn't know what church I was in.
Well, and today there are 3 United Methodist churches in
Right.
Palmyra. Did they all start from different angles? Like, was one an evangelical church and that they got folded in, or were there more than one United Brethren churches?
No, there was only one, no, there were 2 United Brethren. Gravel Hill was United Brethren, and we were United Brethren.
And then what was Bethany before they became United Methodist?
To tell you the truth, I don't know.
I thought maybe they came from the different
Yeah,
congregations and then,
Bethany was always the smallest
right.
one. And I think Gravel Hill started because of location in town, that they needed something up in the north end of town
Or maybe that
for
was
people
growing
to
in that
go.
area. I don't know. If you were, and you'd be a very good person to do this, but if you're selling Palmyra, the concept of living in Palmyra to other people. what do you-
Now?
Right.
At the
What-
present time, well, I still think it's a nice town to live in. I think it probably is a lot safer than any local towns around us. I think we have good police protection, we have good fire protection. I think we have a lot to offer.
And you've seen all those systems grow over the
Right.
past 90 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting to look back on that and say. Now, at this point, you're living in a retirement community. A
Right.
retirement community grew up in Palmyra. What's your take on that?
Well, at first I wondered whether I was gonna like living in a retirement community. But in a way, I was kind of forced into it, and now I respect it, and it is my home. Because I have only one son, 2 grandsons. Jerry lives 600 miles away, so he can't be here all the time. My grandsons, one lives in Connecticut, one lives out in Arizona. So I'm the only one left, and I'm by myself. So this is my family.
So the development of a retirement community in Palmyra for the older population was a good move.
It's a good move, and it is good for someone. I'm not so positive that it's good for a couple, because I know my husband wouldn't have been happy living in a retirement community, because he liked the outdoors, he liked to be able to shoot and things like that. But it's a good place for a person that's left alone and has no family around. Or I just realized how many people here have no one coming to visit them. And I said, not too long ago, I said to the chaplain, I said, you know, I wonder why God left me here. And yet I'm thinking he left me here to visit with these people and give them something to be happy about and do.
There's always a purpose. There always is a purpose. I think that's great that you're finding that purpose, because you're very good at
I'm
that.
finding that also in eating, because our meals are so well planned nutritionally, and I go out, I'm lucky, I have friends that come and get me and I go out, but when I go out to eat, I might get French fries and steak and things like that, and then I think, that isn't planned as well as what I left back there.
I'm glad to hear you say that. That's
It
good that you
is.
know that.
I'm
that you
happy
realize
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about our meal. I'm very happy about the nurses, the care you get. I just can't say enough for the home.
Great. Well, thank you very
Oh,
much
you're
for
welcome.
doing this. You've given us little gems that we didn't have before, which is great. I really like that. I love this story about the going down the school, because Steve, you didn't go.